Hello and welcome, Lynx here. We are playing Unnatural Urges, Rinka's perspective. It is once again. Well, let's see if she can make friends. Rinka was so excited after meeting Canon, she found it difficult to relax that night. She had anticipated that she might meet another girl her age, cloistered as she was in Masaomi's home, or that this girl might want to be her friend. You know what, now that I think about it, Canon in a way is like Rinka. Not fully, but like in some sort of way. Rinka is, well, technically kept in the house because people are sort of afraid of her because she's supposedly a demon. Meanwhile, Canon is basically kept at house because her parents want her basically to stay at house, like in the way that she doesn't go to school and so on. So, yeah. It's vastly different, but kind of similar. Anyway, the thought was a novel one, but that made it no less heavy. Rinka was in such a high spirits she felt almost giddy. She was too excitable to settle down properly to play Go with Masaomi after dinner despite his gentle cajoling. I don't know how you play Go, by the way.
Come on, Rinka. I thought you wanted to get better at Go. Aren't you always telling me that you're going to best me someday?
Someday, maybe? But not tonight.
Oh?
Masaomi raised an eyebrow.
Don't tell me you're giving up already. We've barely started playing.
We've been playing for more than half an hour.
Yes, and professional games of Go can last for a whole day. We're still in the opening stages.
Whole day? Is that really true? Holy crap. I don't think I could be a Go player.
What?
Rinka stared at Masaomi in horror. She could feel the color draining from her cheeks, turning her skin snowy white, a little like Snowy. Or Komugi, Rinka suppose should say.
You don't want me to play Go with you for a whole day, do you?
Rinka didn't mind playing games with Masaomi. It was a means of passing the time, and was more involved than listening to the radio or watching TV, but Go had never been one of her favorites. When board games were concerned, she preferred shogi. I also don't know the rules of shogi. Masaomi's Go board was too vast, and while the rules might have appeared simple, they were deceptively so. Rinka still found it difficult to wrap her head around even the most basic strategies. That's when you know, throw the strategy away and go. If Masaomi wanted, he could have caught her in a ladder every match from which she could not escape, effectively claiming control of more than half of the board. The Go board was too large for Rinka to wrap her head around, but the pieces were much too small. She struggled to take them between her fingers, and she often dropped them. They were smooth and shiny, even if Masaomi had possessed this board for many years. Apparently it had belonged to one of his older brothers, and Rinka struggled with them even more than she had her chopsticks. Sometimes Rinka wondered whether the game of Go had been devised solely to torment her. It was a tedious affair, something Masaomi could tell because he smiled.
Well, maybe not. I can tell your heart isn't really in it anyway. Are you still thinking about with Miss Wakabayashi?
You mean Canon?
Masaomi nodded, and Rinka smiled, relieved that she had something to talk about other than Go strategies, which hurt her skull.
Well, of course I'm thinking about her. She's my friend. Or she said she wanted to be.
Rinka toyed with the sleeves of her kimono, newly anxious as she mumbled,
Do you think Canon meant it?
Meant what?
That should be my friend. Nobody else have ever said that to me, and Well, I'm a demon.
I know you are. I don't think that makes you any less likable for...
The villagers all hate me.
The villagers didn't give you a proper chance. Not like Miss Wakabayashi has. She might be rash, but she has more sense than everybody else in Higashikawa put together.
And do you really think she wants to be my friend?
I'm sure of it, dear. Why wouldn't she? You're a lovely young girl.
Masaomi chuckled as he set down Ghost Stone, claiming a large swath of Rinka's white pieces, while she had been trying fruitlessly to protect.
Even if your skills in Go leave much to be desired.
What? Oh boy. Rinka abandoned the game of Go shortly after that. She knew there was no point in proceeding, not when Masaomi had been able to claim so much of the board. She would never be able to defeat him.
Her victory was very far away indeed.
Even further than the stars which shone in the night sky. Rinka hoped that her next encounter with Kanon would not be so very distant, however. She went to bed with this hope, for she found it hard to sleep. She was so excited, she kept tossing and turning upon her futon, to such an extent she kept jostling Masaomi. Masaomi's bedroom was rather large. All the rooms in his home were large. Given that her once housed 3 boys, but Rinka, and also parents, right, so 5 people. But Rinka liked to sleep close beside him. Knowing that Masaomi was only a few centimeters away from her even as she slept was soothing. It was hard for Rinka to relax on her own. For she had been living with Masaomi for a year, she still found the shadows that unspooled across the tiny mats at night unnerving. Huh? They reminded her too much of being back in the mountains. Not that she could recall much of that, she didn't want to. Rinka's time in the mountains had been miserable. It was less so with Masaomi. He kept her safe, for Rinka fancied he was starting to get a bit perturbed the third time she jostled him and he awoke. Masaomi sat up on his futon, rubbing his eyes blurrily, then looked at Rinka askance.
Are you alright, Rinka?
Yes,
Rinka blushed, for it was lost in the darkness.
I'm fine.
Are you sure? You don't need to go to the bathroom, do you?
No, it's fine. I was just having trouble sleeping, that's all.
Well, I can see that.
Masaomi chuckled. He looked a touch more rumpled than usual, but he didn't seem upset or annoyed. He was still smiling. Maybe Rinka had misjudged him. Masaomi wasn't the sort of person who lost his patience after being awoken a couple of times. He was too placid and mild-mannered, traits he must have picked up while teaching. It was impossible to get a class full of rowdy children to behave, or so Masaomi had once told Rinka. If one lost one's temper, it was best to be calm and untroubled like the surface of a lake.
Should I take it then that your loss in our game of Go infuriated you to such a degree that sleep is no longer viable?
Oh, no.
Rinka's brows creased.
I wasn't thinking about that. I'd already forgotten.
How tragic.
Masaomi laughed.
And here I was hoping I'd be able to kindle you in a passion for the game. Was that wishful thinking?
Playing Go is a bit tiring. It's hard to hold the stones and I don't like kneeling for so long. I like going on walks outside more.
I know you do. I wish I could take you outside more myself. There is nothing wrong with exercising and I think it would do you some good to get out of the house. But there are some issues with that, sadly.
Rinka was well aware of this. She knew of the risks. She still had nightmares about her disastrous trip to Higashikawa, and she didn't much want to venture outside the walls of Masaomi's home. She was much safer with him. She doubted anybody would be as kind to her as he was. Not even Kanon.
Well, I might not be able to take you on walks outside, but I can show you the world in another way.
Ah, you can?
That's right. I can always tell you a story. Goodness no, I read enough books. If I doubt you'd like me to relay one of my favorite murder mysteries to you.
No, thank you. No.
Hehe.
I don't want to hear about murder, no.
I didn't think you would. You've always been so sensitive. How about a tale about a young boy, then, or a young girl, if you'd rather, who goes on a fantastic adventure to the Dragon Palace at the bottom of the ocean?
Is there a dragon palace at the bottom of the ocean?
There is in this story. My mother told it to me several times when I was a child. It's a story about a handsome young fisherman called Urashima Taro. For there is no reason why she can't be a pretty young fisherwoman called Urashima Hanako. Now, do you want to hear our fisherwoman's adventures?
Yeah, that sounds like fun.
Very well, now let me see. Our story begins in a small village, much like Higashikawa, for unlike Higashikawa, this village is located near the ocean. Urashima Hanako was a plucky young girl and...
Masaomi began to spin a story for Rinka, one which was founded in folk tales of old, but which Rinka enjoyed regardless. She hung onto Masaomi's every word, enchanted by the cadences of his voice. As with a soft sigh, Rinka's fair lashes fell shut and she drifted off to sleep. For it had taken Rinka a while to fall asleep this night. The night prior, she woke up early come the following morning. Masaomi was still fast asleep when Rinka rose, lying so still he might well have been a wax figure. Rinka looked at him for a few moments, frowning as the sun's light illuminated his grey hair, his sallow skin. Rinka couldn't see his mustache wavering as it sometimes did when he slept, and neither could she see his chest rising and falling. Wait, what? Was he alright?
Masaomi!
Rinka called Masaomi's name quietly, suddenly seized with worry. Rinka knew that Masaomi's condition was frail. He had fallen ill last winter, once all the leaves had fallen from the trees, and Rinka had fretted, for Masaomi had reassured her. He had told her between his coughing that he was quite alright, that he had dealt with much worse in the past and there was no cause for concern. Rinka had worried about Masaomi regardless, of course. She hadn't been able to help herself, but had been as good as his word. Masaomi's coughing had abated after only a few days, and had soon been back on his feet again, looking a little more wan and a little more wary than he had before perhaps, but otherwise he'd been in fine spirits. Rinka had been relieved when Masaomi had recovered, but she was starting to get anxious now. He had lain on his futon for many hours as his sickness had gripped him, looking like a corpse. Rinka didn't want to see Masaomi like that again. She leaned in, fearful that there was something seriously wrong, terrified he might, in the night, have stopped breathing. But then Masaomi snorted in his sleep and sighed, and Rinka's heart flooded with relief. Same. He was alright after all.
Gee!
Rinka pouted, then gave Masaomi a gentle prod in the cheek with her fingertip, gently enough that he didn't stir.
Don't scare me like that. If I don't have you, I don't know what I'd do.
Rinka rose, relieved and dressed, changing out of her old nightclothes and into the lovely patterned kimono Masaomi had bought her. Oh, this one, yeah. It's so nice indeed. She fixed her hair, brushing her fingers through it, then padded it out of the bedroom and into the hallway. It was still early. The sun had only just risen, but Rinka's stomach was rumbling. She liberated some food from the fridge. Masaomi had made rice balls again and ventured out onto the veranda. For Rinka had come to feel quite welcome in Masaomi's home, the garden was still her favorite place to sit and think. Stop moving! Stop, please! I think this is the freaking, kind of my favorite, in a way, part of Japanese houses, by the way, the verandas thing. where you have like technically the walls, then you have like a corridor and then again a glass wall kind of thing. I want that, okay? I want that, and I will never be able to afford that, I know, but I don't know why. But it's, yeah, I think that's why I would love like basically a house that's Japanese designed in a way. Those verandas are, yeah, something I absolutely adore. Anywho, next. It looked especially pretty in the springtime. The grass, lush and lovely green, while little flowers poked up everywhere. Rinka picked at her rice bowl as she looked across the garden, popping bits of vinegar rice into her mouth. She chewed slowly, pensively, as the warm air stirred her hair, her sleeves. All was calm, the only disturbance that of the birds as they chirped amongst the trees. Ugh. At least until the hedge rustled. Rinka stared at it, her rice bowl forgotten, as a familiar head poked out from amongst the leaves. Then a familiar body.
Snowy!
Rinka cried out to her unexpected visitor, for she soon realized the error of her ways. She now knew, after talking to Kanon yesterday, that Snowy wasn't called Snowy at all. She was actually called Komugi. Rinka couldn't bring herself to call Snowy that, however. For the last 6 months, Snowy had been Rinka's friend, her sweet, kind animal companion. Rinka had grown used to calling Komugi Snowy, and she didn't much feel like changing because the Miyakes had decided to bequeath the cat with another name. Snowy might have been Komugi to everybody else, but he was still Snowy to Rinka. Nothing would change that, not even when Snowy was returned to the Miyakes.
You've been quite naughty girl, you know.
Rinka scolded Snowy, albeit gently, as Snowy padded towards her purring.
What do you think you're doing running away from home like that? The Miyakes are very worried about you.
Snowy mailed in response, rubbing her head against Rinka's chin. She didn't seem to grasp the significance of Rinka's words, or if she did, she simply didn't care. Just like a cat would, I guess. Snowy had always been such a fiercely individualistic cat, in the sense she was a little like Kanon. Rinka giggled as Snowy tried to paw the rice ball in her lap, for she soon stopped herself. She wasn't supposed to be giggling, she needed to give Snowy a lecture. Rinka batted Snowy's paw away.
Boop!
Snowy meowed, then said,
I don't know if I should reward you. You've been a very naughty girl. Why did you run away? It can be because the Miyakes have been treating you badly. Mrs. Miyake was never nice to me, but I'm sure she'd be nice to you. You're her precious cat. Yes, that's right. You're very, very precious. That's why the Miyakes take such a good care of you. They probably feed you a lot. You're so round. I know why you started coming into our garden at all. You don't need any more food. But fine.
Rinka.
Fine, get fatter.
Rinka relented, seeing how insistently Snowy was rubbing her head against her side. She smiled, then said,
I guess I can feed you just a little bit. You'll be staying here for a while, at least until Kanon comes to collect you. Then she'll take you right back to the Miyakes. You'll be able to go home. Isn't that nice?
Wait, was that a sound? There is a sound for meowing, what the hell? Damn it. Okay, it's been like that, so I'll keep it like that. Actually, I might as well do that. It's not very audible. Snowy meowed in response, for Rinka was unsure whether she was happy at the prospect of going home or whether she was excited about the tuna mayonnaise rice bowl Rinka was holding out to her. Rinka couldn't tell. Both? Maybe. She was starting to feel rather pensive, however, even as Snowy's pink-pointed tongue nudged her fingertips. Snowy might have had a home, but what about her? Rinka had never really fit in among her fellow demons, but she no longer had to worry about them. She was with Masaomi now. It didn't matter if everybody in Higashikawa turned against her, even Kanon, for Rinka hoped she wouldn't. She had been able to find a home of her own too. She had somewhere she belonged. And when she thought about that, she decided that she was rather fortunate indeed. True. And then we go to Masaomi's perspective. The days, then the weeks passed by, but Kanon only stopped by the Haruna household once. She returned only to check whether Rinka and Masaomi had been successful in apprehending the runaway Komugi. Rinka had been pleased to tell Kanon that yes, Komugi had been come sniffing around their garden a couple of days prior, and yes, she and Masaomi had been taking very good care of her. Rinka went to fetch Komugi from the living room where she had been dozing and handed her to Kanon. Komugi was quite a hefty cat, and Kanon's shoulders had slumped under her weight. Ugh. Masaomi had worried that Kanon would be able to carry her all the way back to the village and had offered to help, but Kanon had refused him.
I'll be just fine. If I need your help, I'd ask for it. I'm a lot tougher than I look. And anyway, Komugi's just a dumb cat. I can carry her easily.
Masaomi hadn't been too convinced on this point. Komugi was remarkably placid and well-behaved for a cat. She hadn't stirred when Kanon grabbed at her, and neither had she tried to scratch her captor. But she was very heavy. Like very heavy. Kanon meanwhile was very slight. The logistics did not seem to adapt, but Kanon refused any aid. Kanon was so insistent on the matter, Masaomi had never seen a little girl pout so much, that Masaomi soon gave up.
Alright then, he had said, feeling quite exhausted. You think you can carry Komugi by yourself, then by all means be my guest. I'll save me a walk. It will save me a walk to the village, if nothing else.
Masaomi was quite glad when Kanon sloped off that Rinka wasn't as truculent as her newfound friend. Masaomi would have loved Rinka regardless, even if her temperament had been as sore as his favorite pickled plums, but it was a lot easier to get along with a polite child than a pouty, peevish one. That had been a fortnight ago, however, and Kanon hadn't put in another appearance. Part of Masaomi was grateful for this. He found Kanon's company exhausting, but he knew Rinka was beginning to fret. Every morning after eating her breakfast, she would sit on the veranda, staring out at the garden to see if Kanon would show up. She was always disappointed, however. She was so distracted she couldn't focus on her lessons. Rinka had always been rather studious, but she paid less and less attention to her books as the time wore on, and spent more time asking Masaomi if he thought Kanon would come back soon. Kanon was on Rinka's mind that Saturday morning too, as both she and Masaomi sat up on the veranda. It was a warm, sunny day, for it was still relatively early in the year. It was late March, and the trees in the garden were festooned with cherry blossoms, blossoms which would soon scatter to make way for the green leaves of the burgeoning summertime. It was so warm, Masaomi had brought a pitcher of cool barley tea onto the veranda, which he served for both himself and Rinka. Masaomi had drunk 2 glasses of the stuff already, but Rinka had only had 1, and she'd only half finished it. She kept taking anxious sips of her drink, her red eyes still trained up on the hedgerows at the back of the garden. Her slender legs swung back and forth, as softly she said,
You don't think Kanon has forgotten about me, do you?
I wonder...
Masaomi frowned. He would have liked to reassure Rinka, but once again he didn't want to risk lying to her. Masaomi didn't have very much faith in Kanon. He thought that she was flighty, a fact she had already proved. Now that she had retrieved Komugi and she had presumably handed her back to the mourning Miyakes, he was unsure whether Kanon would return to split that reward with Rinka. She might have made a promise, but just how valuable was the promise of a young girl with an attitude problem? Masaomi leaned back on the veranda, his own legs swishing, as he took in the garden, a riot of springtime colors. The grass was green, and small flowers were beginning to sprout amongst it, white, blue, and yellow. The crimson spider lilacs had already bloomed and were swinging to and fro in the breeze like blood-red pendulums. It was warm enough that insects were humming around, albeit lackadaisically. The fat beasts were fitting between the flowers drunkenly in a way that suggested they weren't really trying. It was a nice enough day despite the baleful expression on Rinka's face, and Masaomi wanted to enjoy it. For once, his leg wasn't hurting him. All was well in the world, at least it would be, if he could cheer Rinka up!
Well, even if Canon doesn't show up, we can always do something fun together.
Something fun?
Masaomi nodded. The activities he and Rinka could do together were limited, given they couldn't go to the village, but they did not necessarily need to be confined to the garden.
It's such a nice spring day, we could maybe go for a walk through the woods. I can't wander too far, but that's no reason why you can't enjoy yourself. If you keep within eyesight, that is. Would you like that?
Masaomi didn't think that Rinka was unhappy living with him. In fact, it was quite the opposite, but she was in effect a prisoner, trapped in the four walls of his home. She always perked up when Masaomi talked about going for walks, at least she usually did. It wasn't so that morning, however. Rinka's thoughts must still have been on the erstwhile Canon because she sighed and then said,
But what if Canon comes by when we're not here? She'll think we're avoiding her. She'll be really sad.
Fair enough.
Okay, I think you should think less about Canon and more about yourself. Isn't that making you sad?
It's fine, I'm not that sad. I'll be sadder if Canon shows up and we're not here.
But if Canon shows up and we're not here, you wouldn't even know about it.
Yes, that would make it even worse.
It would.
Rinka nodded determinedly.
I can't leave, not if she might stop by. If she doesn't show up, I'll know about it, but I go out, I never will. I won't be able to stop thinking about it.
I think you might be thinking about Canon too much already.
Masaomi frowned, then retrieved his cups of barley tea.
But well, we don't need to go for a walk if you don't want to. There are plenty of fun things we can do here, like... Do you want me to tell you a story?
I know if I'm in the mood.
Then maybe we could play a game of Go.
No, thank you.
Rinka replied firmly, her lips set into a little line.
I'm no good at it, you always beat me.
But doesn't to be how our matches go, doesn't it?
Masaomi smiled faintly. He hadn't been defeating Rinka maliciously, of course. He'd introduced Rinka to the game of Go a few months ago, and he always made sure to give himself a 6-stone handicap. He didn't want to crush Rinka's feelings towards the game before they had a chance to blossom. When Masaomi made a conscious effort to go easy on her, however, she would frown and say,
You aren't playing properly!
Rinka seemed determined to try and beat Masaomi on even footing, for that was ridiculous. Masaomi had been playing Go and on and off for almost 50 years. Rinka couldn't possibly hope to stack up to his accumulated expertise even with a handicap, for she tried valiantly. Rinka was nothing but a hard worker, even when it came to activities which were supposed to be fun.
You shouldn't fret too much, for you'll get better the more you practice.
Do you really think so?
Of course, that's how these things always go. No one is good at anything during their first few attempts.
Sadly.
But if you really don't feel like Go, we could try shogi instead. I'm not as accomplished in that. Mariko always used to beat me handily.
You're still better than me, so...
Well, yeah, that's because you're a child.
Sometimes I wish I wasn't.
Don't wish your life away, you silly thing. You really don't want to become an adult. Being a child is the best. You'll get older whether you want or not, and by thus we can help it. For now you should enjoy your youth.
True. Not Masaomi thought that there was very much to Rinka's youth. She spent all of her time with Masaomi, so had to adopt the habits of an old man. She ate the same simple easy to digest foods Masaomi liked, white rice, natto and silken tofu, and she played the same games Masaomi liked, mostly Go and shogi. She rarely left the house, and when she did, it was only to wander the woods, where she and Masaomi picked mushrooms and wild onions. It was a peaceful, easygoing sort of existence, but it wasn't very exciting. It wasn't the sort of life most children would have enjoyed. Rinka never complained, but Masaomi did worry she would grow tired of living such a sheltered life if she hadn't already. Was that why she wanted to see Kanon so much? Kanon might have been a stranger, but she was also a break in the monotony of Rinka's everyday routine. Masaomi pondered this, sipping at his barley tea, which was now a little lukewarm when...
Woo!
Rinka's eyes widened, and it did not take long for Masaomi to discern why. The hedgerow at the back of the garden was rustling. She does know we have front door, right? Then from amidst its prison of green leaves and wooden branches, a young girl clad in a kimono appeared. A girl who seemed to have no qualms crawling on the dirt on her belly despite her fine clothes. She rose to her feet after infiltrating the garden and began to brush stray leaves from her kimono, her hair. She was unable to get all of the leaves, and a few remained entwined in her short hair. Her kimono, meanwhile, was dusted about the knees with dirt, but that seemed not to bother her. Very little bothered Wakabayashi, Kanon.
Kanon!
Rinka hopped from the veranda, where she had been perched, and dashed across the garden to greet her friend. Her long fair hair fluttered behind her like a shroud as she dashed, and her wooden sandals clattered around the grass. Masaomi had been living with Rinka for over a year, but he had never seen her look quite so animated before, nor quite so enthusiastic. It was heartwarming, seeing her in such high spirits, for Masaomi did feel obliged to caution her.
Be careful, Rinka, don't run too quickly, you'll trip.
Then to Kanon, Masaomi said somewhat tiredly,
You don't need to crawl through the hedge every time you want to pay us a visit, you know. We have a perfectly good door, you just need to knock.
I know that, but if I go to the front door, it will be obvious I'm coming to see you. People will talk. I thought you wanted me to keep this a secret.
I don't think you crawling through my hedge is any less conspicuous than you knocking on my door for. In fact, it might be even more alarming if anybody was to see half of you sticking out the other side of the hedge when walking by.
Don't be silly.
Kanon waved one hand airily, as if she was a queen dismissing a particularly foolish member of the court.
I looked around before I started crawling to see if anybody else was coming there. The coast was clear when I came here.
And why couldn't you have gone to the front door?
'Cause that's not as much fun.
Yeah, I thought you might say that.
Masaomi sighed, more than a little perturbed. He could already feel a headache coming on, as Kanon stomped over to the veranda, Rinka on her heels.
Hey,
The impetuous young girl took a seat, then said with a grin,
can you guess why I came here? Ooh, I can guess, I can. Do you come to keep a promise? Did you get the dango like you said you would? That's right.
Kanon smiled snugly, looking rather pleased with herself.
I gave Komugi back to Mr. and Mrs. Miyake and they were really happy. They gave me some money as a reward, which I knew they would, but I couldn't go spending it at once. And to dash back here as soon as possible so I could keep my promise to you, but I knew my parents would have wanted me back at the shrine. I was really busy the last few days, cause there was a wedding we had to prepare for. But I found the time to sneak out today. I went to buy some dango from the village, and I came running here as soon as I could. Look!
Kanon reached into her obi, then retrieved a paper bag. The bag was rather crumpled, but the dango Kanon drew from it looked undamaged. Can I have a look? A couple of the mochi balls were a little misshapen, but it looked edible.
Ooh! I've never seen it like that before. It looks really good. Don't it just? The dango Mrs. Mochizuki makes are the best. Hehe. I haven't had any of them for a while myself. I did think about eating both dango myself and not leaving any for you.
Oh, Rika's face fall.
But a promise is a promise, and I don't go back on my word. I'm a woman of inquity.
Do you mean integrity?
Whatever. Now I'll let you trade, Rinka. But first you need to thank me for going out my way for you. Tell me I'm amazing, I think I deserve it.
Oi. Masaomi frowned. He thought that Kanon was going to a bit far. But then again, wasn't that Kanon all over? But Rinka didn't seem to mind. She smiled sweetly and said,
I think you're really amazing, Kanon. You're so kind. Thank you so much. I love you.
Kanon blushed and glancing away she mumbled,
Well, sure. Of course you think I'm amazing, Carly, I'm the best. My mother doesn't always rise that, and neither do my stupid sisters, but at least you do. You're pretty smart for a demon. Masaomi has been teaching me a lot. He's been showing me how to read and write, and we've been playing a lot of Go together. He's much better than I am, but I'm going to beat him eventually. I'm sure you are. You've got this. Anyway.
a red-faced Kanon thrust one of the Dango at Rinka.
Here, this is for you. Oh, thank you.
Rinka accepted the Dango from Kanon, then examined it, somewhat hesitantly. She blew on it? Did she expect to be hot? Well, Kanon scoffed.
You don't have to do that, dummy. It's made of mulch and it's already cold. You can just bite into it, like this.
Kanon parted her lips, then sunk her teeth into the topmost Dango on the wooden stick, which was cherry blossom pink. Rinka stared at Kanon, her brow furrowed as if she were a student studying for a test. She watched as Kanon's jaw worked up and down around the Dango before she nodded. Then she turned back to her own Dango. Gripping the stick of pastel-colored mochi in her right hand, she dipped her head. Daintily, she brushed her long, fairy hair behind one ear to stop it getting in the way and parted her own lips. She bit down. Rinka's sharp teeth sunk the topmost mochi on the stick and she pulled part of it away. Masaomi watched as she chewed, smiling gently. A moment passed, a moment during which the gentle breeze stirred Rinka's hair and her sleeves. She swallowed. Then she beamed.
Ooh.
Is it good?
Yeah, it's really good, super yummy. You should try some too, Masaomi. Take a bite.
Rinka proffered her stick of Dango to Masaomi while Kanon frowned.
Hey, I bought it for you, not Mr. Haruna. I don't want some old man eating my food. But you gave the Dango to me.
Rather than shrinking away from Kanon, Rinka instead stood her ground. She pouted, still holding the stick of Dango up to Masaomi and said,
It's mine now, so I can do what I want with it. If I want to share with Masaomi again, he deserves it. I think it's a waste, especially when old men like him are always eating.
What? Eating what?
Pickled plums and dried squid. He would know what good food tastes like if it hit him over the head. Masaomi does eat a lot of pickled plums. I don't really like them. Me neither, they are nasty. But I think anybody would like this Dango. It's yummy. Do you want some?
Rinka looked at Masaomi imploringly, still waving Dango before him. Masaomi had been tempted to turn the offer down, as kind as was. He preferred sour foods over sweet ones, despite Kanon and Rinka's distaste for his favorite pickled plums. But he couldn't, not when Rinka looked so earnest. Rinka must have wanted to share the Dango with him because she thought it was delicious. She wanted something they could bond over, other than Go and Shogi. It was sweet, really. Quite literally.
I'd be more happy to try some. Thank you, Rinka. You're very thoughtful.
Masaomi smiled, touched by Rinka's kindness. Like Kanon and Rinka earlier, he then leant in. He bit down the pale pink mochi at the top of the stick, taking the last piece off into his mouth. He chewed, and as he did, Rinka watched him anxiously.
How is it? Do you like it? Do you like it?
Truth be told, the mochi was a little too sweet for Masaomi's taste, and the texture was a bit squishy. For Masaomi liked intestines. He typically preferred food which was easier to eat. Timochi was giving his Joe a workout which wasn't necessarily welcome, for there was something Moorish about it. He could see why Mochi was such a popular snack with young children. If he had been younger himself, he might have liked it a bit more. The fact it was a gift from Rinka imbued it with more significance than it otherwise would have possessed, however. Masaomi swallowed. He smiled. Then he said,
Thank you, Rinka. It really was very sweet. Very, very sweet.
From that day forth, Rinka and Kanon became firm friends. Kanon couldn't always visit Rinka because she was busy with her lessons and with her work at the shrine, but she stopped by when she could, typically once a week or once every other week. Rinka was as demure and well-behaved as always when Kanon wasn't there, but on the days when Kanon did put in an appearance by sneaking through the hedge as was becoming a custom, her eyes lit up. Masaomi didn't necessarily approve of Kanon, but the obvious joy she brought Rinka was worth putting up with the young Miss Wakabayashi's truculent attitude. Masaomi hadn't been very pleased when Kanon trailed muddy footprints in the house after a lengthy session of making mood pies in the garden with Rinka, and he was perturbed when she got out his go board without asking and managed to lose several pieces and then the board in the bag again, but he was willing to overlook that. Kanon's company made Rinka happy, and that was all that mattered. The weeks continued to pass by, and then the months. Eventually the summer began in earnest. The days were long and the nights short, the sun high in the sky for so many hours at a time that sitting in the garden on some days was almost unbearable. Masaomi typically preferred the warmer weather because it was easier on his joints, but he didn't like it when it was so very warm he had to bath twice daily to stop getting sweatier. I'm sorry, what? I mean, that's a normal thing to do, even if it's not warm. Am I the only one who baths, or more like showers, twice a day? Rinka was also beginning to flag from the heat. She seemed to wilt under the intense sunlight like a flower, and the mosquitoes, which were now out in full force, all seemed indelibly attracted her for some reason. Oh my god, mosquitoes suck so much. I hate mosquitoes as well. Rinka spent her summer lying on the futon like an insect, sipping glasses of barley tea to cool down. The nights were a little less oppressive than the days, but only slightly. They too were uncomfortably hot, so much so Rinka walked numerous times during the night. Rinka sweated in her futon and spent a lot of time tossing and turning. Whenever she woke in the morning, her covers would be crumpled and often tossed to one side. The humming of the cicadas was loud enough to be oppressive, which further hampered Rinka's sleep, and it didn't help that she drank so much barley tea during the day to cool down. All of this tea sloshed about inside her, and it compelled her to get up 2 or 3 times a night to go to the bathroom. Whenever Rinka had to leave herself, she would always shake Masaomi awake so he could accompany her during the nighttime odyssey. I guess that's what kids do, to be fair, at night. They would wake their parents, yeah. Rinka didn't like wandering through the house at night. When the hallways were full of shadows, they unnerved her. Masaomi didn't mind this too much, but it made him slow and sluggish when he awoke the following morning. A general malaise had begun to settle upon the Haruna household, one which was broken by the unexpected arrival of Kanon. She arrived much later than usual, when the sun had reset, clutching a paper bag to her chest. Masaomi wondered what was inside the bag, but he was more worried why Kanon was out and about so very late. Had something happened? Masaomi tried to inquire about this, but Kanon's response was testy. Testy?
What's so you? What do you want to know?
I want to know because I'm an adult. I can't in good conscience let you run around so late at night, not when your parents have no idea where you are. They'll worry about you, and I'm sure your sisters will too.
Huh.
Kanon snorted. She didn't look convinced.
I doubt that.
Oh? Masaomi raised an eyebrow in inquiry.
And why is that, might I ask?
They won't miss me at all. They never do. They'll be glad to get rid of me, especially Miss Ai. She was being such a cow. Did your sister do something to upset you, Kanon? She does a lot of things to upset me, but she was being especially horrible today. I didn't even do anything wrong. I just want to try on some of her clothes. Is there something special about them? I'll say, Misaya has really amazing clothes, just like the girls in Reverse Rainbow. Like Reverse Rainbow?
Rinka gasped, her eyes widening further still. Masaomi knew little about current music, and he knew less still about the music that young girls liked. He had no idea who Reverse Rainbow were, but Rinka seemed to. I had no clue. Kanumas had told her about this group before. Rinka looked very keen. More keen, Masaomi thought, feeling rather disappointed than she was about Go or Shogi. I mean, come on. Anyone would be. I think. I don't know, like Go, Shogi, that sounds a little bit to me like basically chess, which I have zero interest in. I don't even know the rules of chess, so...
Does your sister have pleated skirts and those dresses with all of the patterns? Oh yeah, and then some. She has high heels too, and they're really, really high. Does she really? Yes, she does. Mom hides them. Misaya buys them with her own money. She has a part-time job, so she can't really say anything about it. Mom would never let me wear anything like that for. She thinks Western clothes are evil or something. I don't know.
Not evil, but they don't have this charm. Yeah, they don't.
I don't really get it. It's so annoying for Misaya always shows off to me whenever she buys something new. All cause she knows I'm stuck wearing these stuffy old kimonos, but her new heels really are cute. I went to try them so badly, so I slept in her room when she was on the phone, but I wasn't quick enough. Misaya caught me, and she was so angry. I think she was angry anyway cause she had a fight with her boyfriend. I can always tell. He lives in Kawano and he calls her almost every night and it always makes her moody, but she got even angrier when she saw me. She shouted, but it wasn't fair, and me to break one of the heels on her stupid shoes.
Oh, so you did break. So that was why Misaya had turned on Kanon, was it? Masaomi had wondered. Masaomi didn't know Wakabayashi Misaya, Kanon's fashionable older sister, very well, but he felt a certain kinship with her regardless. He could relate to her frustrations well. After Kanon had dented his go board, Kanon seemed rather good at breaking things. It was one of her special talents! Forget being a shrine maiden. Perhaps Mrs. Wakabayashi should have been training her youngest daughter to go into construction instead. Or deconstruction. Should make quite a good wrecking ball, actually.
Anyway, Misaya yelled at me and I yelled at her, and then Mom came in to see what that matter was, and would you believe it? She took Misaya's stinky inside. She got at me too, and then she sent me to my room without any dinner. She was going to ground me, but I don't want to be grounded, so there. I managed to sneak out and I ran all the way down the steps from the shrine in the dark to come here. I'm not going to stay with my sisters anymore, not when they're so mean and hateful to me. Wow, you're so brave, Kanon!
Rinka applauded Kanon's courage, but Masaomi was less convinced.
And what will you do if your parents notice that you've gone missing? Or one of your sisters for that matter? They'll be worried about you.
Let them worry, I don't care.
You might not, but I do. If they find out you've come here...
They won't. I haven't told anybody that I've come in here. They will never guess. You'd have to be crazy to hang out with a demon.
And because it's so crazy, it sounds like exactly the sort of thing you would do.
Masaomi sighed. He knew as a responsible adult the best course of action would be to escort Kanon straight back home before her family could worry if they weren't worrying already. If he did that, however, he would then have to explain to Mrs. Wakabayashi that Kanon had been visiting him and Rinka. He doubted that Mrs. Wakabayashi would like that. If she knew what her youngest daughter had been doing, she would never let Kanon sneak out of the house again. Then Rinka would no longer have a friend to play with. Masaomi did that, unsure of what to do when Kanon said bravely,
Anyway, enough boring talk. I figured since I was coming out here so late, I might as well show something cool, Rinka. Something cool?
Rinka looked at Kanon eagerly.
Did you bring me Misaya's heels so I can try them too? Ha ha ha. No. They're busted anyway. They ain't no good, but this should be real neat. I bought these while back, thinking I'd like to share them with you, but I never had a good chance to use them. I do now, fall, since it's nice and dark. Look.
Oh, I think I know what it might be. Canon Trasker crumbled back forwards and beamed, a bright smile which seemed to shine in the dark.
I brought you a whole bunch of sparklers to play with, Rinka. Huh?
If Canon was hoping her announcement would be met with excited glee, however, she was sadly mistaken. Rinka tipped her head to one side, her expression politely bemused as she said,
What's a sparkler? Well, I could tell you. But I think it'd be even better if I showed you. Look.
Canon dug into her paperback of goodies, then procured a sparkler, a seemingly unremarkable brown stick. Rinka accepted the sparkler from Canon, but she seemed at a loss for what to do with it. She looked at it curiously and said,
Thank you, Canon. It's a really nice gift, but what does it do? Well, what do you think? It's a sparkler, dummy. It's supposed to sparkle. That's the point. It doesn't look like very sparkly to me, though. Well, it wouldn't. That's because it's not lit yet. You need to set it on fire first. What? Is that really safe? It's fine. The sparklers don't burn all that much. Do you have any matches, Mr. Haruna?
Sorry.
Do you have any matches, Mr. Haruna?
Not on me, no. I don't smoke.
Gee,
Canon scoffed.
I should have known. You're so useless.
Well, forgive me for not wanting to risk damaging my lungs. I'm frail enough without making things worse.
Masaomi sighed, then rose to his feet, albeit staggeringly. His left leg didn't hurt as much as it sometimes did, but standing too suddenly will still cause him discomfort.
I should get some matches inside, for let me get them.
Yes, you should. And be quick about it. Chop, chop.
Wow.
Yes, your majesty, your wish is my command.
Masaomi was still fretting about Canon's parents, but he had already resigned himself to his fate. He knew there would be no convincing Canon to leave of her own accord, and he didn't much want to march Canon over to the Wakabayashi shrine. His leg might have been aging less than it usually did, but he doubted he would have been able to manage all of the stairs, and neither did he want to deal with what lay atop them. Mrs. Wakabayashi was infamous around Higashikawa for her short temper. Trying to have a polite conversation with her could only serve in backfiring tremendously. It was easiest to let Canon while away at night, the night at his home, then return once she inevitably grew bored. Until then, Masaomi would do his best to appease her. Resigned to his fate, Masaomi shuffled inside. He retrieved the matches from where he kept them in a drawer beneath Mariko's shrine. An incense stick was placed in a little dish next to a black ribbon photograph of his late wife, for the stick had burned down. Masaomi decided to relight the incense on a whim after retrieving the matches, then smiled at Mariko.
My life has taken quite a lot of twists and turns, Mariko. You have no idea how busy things have gotten since I took Rinka in. She's a good girl, but her friend can be a bit of a nuisance. Still, it's nice that the house is so lively again. I think you would have enjoyed it. I know you always wanted a young girl. I'm just sorry I couldn't give you one.
Ooh. Masaomi bowed his head in offering, then shuffled back to the veranda. He took the matches despite Canon's order to hand them over. He wasn't foolish enough to trust Canon with any means to start the fire on a command, and lit the ends of Canon's and Rinka's sparkles for them. Canon seemed a bit peeved by this.
I could have done it myself, you know.
But Rinka's resultant gasp of joy was enough to smooth the furrow from her brow. She smiled, and nudging Rinka in the side, she said,
So, what do you think? Sparkles are pretty cool, aren't they? They're amazing. They really are sparkly. Aren't they just? I played them with them before, with Miss Susan Ayako and...
Canon pulled an exaggerated face.
Messiah. But it's even more fun to play with you. You always look so shocked by everything. I bought this with my pocket money because I want to see what face you'd make when we started playing with them. I knew you'd love it. Just look.
Canon began to wave her sparkler in the air, the sleeve of her kimono fluttering. You can even write your name with it.
Ooh!
Rinka watched, transfixed, as Kanon moved her right arm dexterously like a master calligrapher. Perhaps her mother's rigorous home education hadn't been for naught after all. The sparkler left a gold trail in the dark area, which took a few moments to dissipate. I would have a crazy idea of like adding an animation now of a sparkler writing her name basically. That would be tough to do, I think, for... Anyway.
Whoa, amazing! That's really amazing! Isn't it just? Ayako showed me how to do it, and I think I'm pretty good at it. Do you want to try? Oh,
Rinka flashed.
I'm not as good at at writing as you are. It's still a little hard for me.
Do you want me to help you, Rinka? I can guide you.
If you wouldn't mind.
Alright then. I guess it goes a little like this.
Masaomi took Rinka's wrist between his fingers and manipulated her hand, just as he had when he had first taught her how to use chopsticks. With Masaomi's help, Rinka was able to write the characters for her name in the air like Kanon had, or at least an approximation of them. She was a little clumsy, but it was better than nothing. Rinka and Kanon played with the sparklers for a few minutes more, while Masaomi watched on. Kanon was being quite aggressive with her sparkler. Not content to simply spell out her name, she had shifted to spelling simple words like cat and dog and flower, which burned her sparkler out more quickly. The end soon fizzled out and Masaomi had her dump it in a bucket of cool water, which he brought outside for the girls. Kanon had more sparklers, however, and Masaomi lit a new one for her obediently enough, and then a new one for Rinka too. The girls played with the sparklers under Masaomi's careful supervision. Every once in a while he warned Kanon to be careful.
You will poke somebody's eye out if you keep waving that finger out so carelessly. Calm down!
Both of them giggling to themselves. Kanon finished with her second sparkler and had just lit her third when she said in an unusually contemplative voice.
You know, you really are my best friend, Rinka. I'm glad I can spend so much time with you. Which is why it makes me so mad when people say mean things about you. Do people say a lot of mean things about me? Sometimes. Misae brought you up earlier, actually when I broke her stupid shoes. She said I was a naughty little girl, and if I didn't learn to behave better, she'd take me over to Mr. Haruna's old house so his demon daughter could eat me. She was going on and on, acting like you're so scary, but it's stupid. She's never even met you. She doesn't know the first thing about you. Misae's an idiot, and so is everybody else. I don't get why they're so scared of you. You never even come into the village. People act like you're some scary monster, but they're the ones that scared you away. It's unfair.
It is indeed unfair, but people are often like that.
I love that she always looks like she has a pouty expression.
They tend to mistrust people who are different to them. People they can't understand.
In a way. But there are some certain people that you just can't trust in general.
Like sand people. It's unfortunate, but I think it will take a lot of time and a fair bit of work if we wish for the world to be a kinder place.
But a cutie pie like Rinka? Dude, I trust her with everything.
I don't want to wait for the world.
Sorry.
I don't want to wait for the world to be a better place for. I want it to be better now.
Fair enough.
I'll make it better now.
Ooh. Will you?
Masaomi smiled wryly, amused by Kanon's ironclad determination. For such a little girl, she had rather big dreams. Her fancies seemed bigger than she was, but Masaomi didn't want to knock her down a peg. He was rather intrigued by what she might say.
And how do you intend to do that?
Hey, it's easy. The next time she says anything mean about Rinka, I'll punch her. That should make her shut up.
Momentarily, maybe?
Masaomi's brow creased in concern as he considered the practical implication of this so-called plan. Rinka meanwhile stared at Canon in horror, her face pale in the moonlight.
No, Canon, you can do that. Can't I? No, I don't want you to hurt anybody, not for me. I don't think I'm worth it. Oi!
Canon pouted, then gave Rinka a poke, and another, and another.
I'm not having enough of that, Rinka. You're my bestest friend in all the world and you're really nice. Of course you're worth it. I'd punch moody old Misa in the face for you any day of the week. I'm not scared of her.
I appreciate your thoughtfulness, but I'm afraid I have to agree with Rinka. I don't think hitting Misa or anybody else for that matter will warm the villagers to Rinka. If anything, it will make them dislike her more, and they turn against you too if they knew you spent so much time with her. I thought you were supposed to be keeping this a secret.
Well, I'm keeping it a secret. But it ain't fair. I wish I didn't have to. I'm not ashamed of Rinka. I would have but no, she's my friend. She's my best friend. That wiped the smug look off Misa's face.
I think it's more likely she would report to your mother about your friendship and you would be banned from sneaking out to see us in the future.
Oh no! I don't want that. You have to keep coming here. I miss you so much. Well, of course I'll keep coming. I'd keep coming even if my mother told me not to. I don't want to stay away from you, Rinka. But I wish I could do more to help you.
That's alright, Canon. You're friends with Rinka and I think that should be enough to make her happy. We can both take care of her, isn't that right?
Well, of course. I'll take good care of Rinka. I have to. She's my best friend and I love her. Wow!
Good, I'm glad. I love her a lot too.
You do?
Rinka looked between Canon and Masaomi, her eyes wet with burgeoning tears. When her eyes white and glassy, she said,
Do you really mean that? 1,000,000%. How many times do I have to tell you?
I wonder that myself sometimes. I know I've reassured Rinka about this over and over, but it never seems to take. I do understand how you feel for Rinka, at least in part. While I was never persecuted like you were, I was given quite a wide berth when I was younger.
You were?
Masaomi nodded and Canon frowned.
But you look so ordinary, Mr. Haruna. What did anybody ever have against you?
I appreciate that you think I look ordinary. I'll take that as a compliment. But to answer the question, my health was rather poor when I was a child. I got every single illness available to my poor parents' despair. I spent more time indoors than not, and I believe my parents and my physicians were both surprised that I lived into adulthood. I've always been fragile, however, and my long string of childhood illnesses left me with a limp leg which doesn't always work the way it's supposed to. The war broke out when I was still a young man, and many men my age, my older brothers included, were conscripted, while I remained here. Many people I knew lost their lives while I remained in relative comfort. I was shunned a fair deal for that. Many people thought of me as a coward who was unwilling to defend my country. I had quite...
I mean, fair enough. I mean, even if someone is unwilling to defend the country, in a way, sometimes, can you really blame that person? Everyone puts their own life first, let's face it. And also, it's like, you might think, okay, so you have those politicians, is this really who you want to protect? Because mostly you protect them, kind of. And are those the people I want to... You know what I mean, right? Like, there are two sides to this coin, basically.
Anyway, I had quite a rough time of it, so I do understand how Rinka must feel.
But on the other hand, well, he was just not cold. Because, well, It's not like, in a way, he would not help, right? Because if he was like placed in one spot, he could shoot and so on, but on the other side, there is a very limited amount of tasks he could do, right? So basically, placed in one spot and shooting or whatever, that's kind of not enough, right? It's funny how people don't grasp basically all of that. Even though everyone knows his leg is, well, shot basically. Anyway. I'm not sure if I read the entire sentence. Anyway.
I had quite a rough time of it, so I do understand how Rinka must feel. Maybe that was why I felt so drawn to her. I suppose we're both misfits, which means we ought to stick together.
Masaomi!
Rinka gave Masaomi scant a squeeze, then said,
I don't think we're misfits. You'll always be at home with me.
You too, Rinka. I'll always be there for you, I promise.
Man, I mean, with your health making a promise like that? Oh boy. Canon regarded Masaomi coolly, her hands on her hips.
Ha!
Then she scolded.
You're not that special, you know.
I beg your pardon?
I don't know much about any war, but you're not the only person who's headed bad. I don't fit in there. I live in a stupid shrine with my parents, and they're so strict. My mother doesn't let me go to school with the other kids, and she doesn't let me dress in nice clothes, and she doesn't like it when I listen to Reverse Rainbow when I try and practice the dances either. She wants to train me up to be a shrine maiden like my big sisters, but there's already 3 of them, do I really need to help out? All this stuff at the shrine is so boring. There's so much cleaning to do, and I need to take part in all of these funny dances, and my mother says she wants me to take part in weddings and funerals too. She says being a shrine maiden is this great honor, and I should be more thankful, but blah 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 blah, and I can't stand it.
Shrine maidens for man. Shrine maidens, man. Yes. They are so lovely.
It's boring. Misuzu and the others might like it. Misuzu's real good at being elegant and graceful, but I don't. The shrine's too big, and there is too much work to do, and I don't wanna do it. I don't want to dress nice, and they...
Technically you said you want to dress nice. Except it's not shrine maiden nice, well, I guess, but...
And they don't want to take part in these silly festivals or ceremonies, and they don't want don't want all of the work.
You probably would like to take part in the festivals and ceremonies, but not from the side of someone organizing them, right?
I don't want my whole life being planned for me. I'm still a kid.
I understand that.
I'd much rather run away with you, Rinka.
Ooh.
Then we could be rid of this privilege and maybe we'd finally be happy.
Rinka started, her face flushing as Canon took hold of her hands.
Would you really want to do that? Yeah, you're really nice, Rinka, and you're really smart. I'd love to run away with you. Oh, I'm flattered, but I think that would make Masaomi sad. He'll be on his own, and I don't want to leave him. He's done so much for me, too, didn't seem fair. Oh, who cares about him? He's just some boring old guy. I'm sure he'll have much more fun with me.
Excuse me, Miss Wakabayashi.
Masumi gave Kanon's cheek a gentle pinch, and she scolded.
Oi, what was that for?
You ought to know I might have the patience of the Buddha himself, but I don't take lightly to being called a boring old guy. That is no way to talk to me, not when I'm even been letting you come here for a year and I've been feeding you snacks.
They're boring snacks for only pickled plums and senbei. I like Dango much more.
And I'm afraid that's why I can't let you run away with Rinka. Your diet is appalling. Your teeth would fall out within a month, and then what would become of you? You wouldn't be able to eat your beloved Dango anymore, or any Daifuku either.
Could this really happen? Of course not, he's just trying to scare you, Rinka.
No, I'm not. I'm being deadly serious. My mother had a sweet tooth, and she had to have a full set of dentures before she was 40 because of the toll the sugar took on her.
Yeah. In a way, that's true. He's right. I'm so glad I don't have that problem. I think I learned that lesson when I was like small, kind of. Like small, I mean, when I was a kid. With all the, you know, child tooth. How they were called? I think in Poland they are kind of called milky tooth. Milky teeth, by the way. I think they were called milky teeth, basically, in Poland at least. That's the first set of teeth, basically. And one of them got messed up for some reason. Just one fall. And I remember not being able to withstand the drilling, basically. Or more like, I did withstand it, but it was in pains. And I think from that point on, I kind of like already learned my lesson in a way and was taking care. Or, I mean, still am taking care of the teeth properly, I would say. To be fair, I only brush them. I don't do any other stuff. But, you know, it's still like a proper brushing. Anyway.
You don't want to have your teeth removed, do you, Canon?
And to be fair, I don't have 3 of my wisdom teeth. I also don't have, I think number 4 on the left side of the upper. And that's all because I had the braces, and it was sort of recommended for me to do, basically. Anywho.
You don't want to have your teeth removed, do you, Canon? Let me repeat myself.
Canon pulled the face.
That sounds like a threat.
I didn't mean it just one, it was more of a friendly warning. If you want to elope with Rinka, I'll give you my blessing. I would miss her, but I would be happy so long as he's happy. But you need to get your act together first, young madame, otherwise we'll have trouble.
Boo, you're boring.
Canon pouted, then looked up at the starry sky. It looked like she was in another one of her surly moods, but this soon changed when she saw a streak of silver flashing across the sky. Ooh, falling stars?
Oh, wow.
Canon grabbed Rinka's shoulder. Rinka squeaked, and giving her a violent shake, she pointed at the night sky and cried.
Hey, Rinka, look at that, look.
Rinka raised her own head. As did Masaomi. In unison, the 3 of them examined the night sky which hung above their heads, and then...
Ooh!
Like Canon before her, Rinka gasped.
What's going on, Canon? Masaomi, what are those?
Those are...
Oh wow, don't you think you're so sheltered, Rinka? Mr. Haruna hasn't been teaching you properly, so I guess I'll have to do it. Those are shooting stars. Shooting?
Rinka's brow furrowed in confusion. It looked like she was trying to make sense of the fantastical scene she was witnessing, trying but failing. It was quite sweet how perplexed Rinka seemed by such a simple sight. One children across the country might have taken to be commonplace. But Rinka had only been living among humans for a year. There was a good deal she did not know. A good deal which still managed to take her breath away. She had been astounded by the Dango which Canon had smuggled her, and she was similarly astounded by the bright lights which were streaking across the sky. There were quite a few shooting stars. They sped across the indigo, either leaving trails of light behind them, almost seeming to tear through space itself. The trails of these stars were bright enough that Rinka's irises shone from them, red like rubies.
I thought stars were supposed to stay in the sky. I've never seen them move before.
A star might look motionless, but they're actually moving all the time. So do we, technically.
They are!
That's right, they move very, very slowly, and because we're so far away, we can't see them move, not most of the time at least. It's only on special occasions like this that they streak through the sky. I think I read that shooting stars actually meteorites.
Yeah.
Which fall through space so quickly they start to burn.
True.
I thought they were supposed to be stars for... What's a meteorite?
A meteorite is...
Who cares about that? That's not about the three matters. Mr. Kuna's getting all hung up about little things again. What does matter then? Don't you know?
Cannot beam, bright and toothy.
Shooting stars are meant to grant you wishes. When you see one, you need to think about something you really, really want. You have to hold it in your head, and if you think hard enough, it will come true. That's what Ayako told me once anyway. Something I really, really want.
Rinka repeated Kanon's words as though they were prophetical, one hand resting upon her chest. She frowned, then she said,
There is lots of things I want. But mostly, I just want Masaomi to be happy.
Wow!
Ha! Rinka!
Masaomi glanced away from the shooting stars touched. He had seen stars, or meteorites rather, streaking through the sky a few times in the past, and though it was a pretty sight, it had less of an impact than what Rinka had just said. Was really willing to sacrifice her wish to make him happy. It was very kind of her, but...
As nice as that is, I think you should use your wish for yourself. You don't need to be so selfless.
That's right, Rinka. You can wish for something better than that. But there isn't anything I want more than that. Oh, please don't be so boring. Masaomi's an adult, so he's meant to make you happy. And besides, you're not supposed to tell everybody your wish. It won't come true if you do that. Does that mean Masaomi won't be happy then?
I'm sure I will be, Rinka. You don't need to worry about it, but Kanon is right for once.
Masaomi smiled dryly, as Kanon stuck out her tongue at him.
Me?
You shouldn't waste your wish on me. You should use it for yourself.
I don't think it's a waste, but if you both insist. I do.
As do I.
Fine! I'll wish for something else. But you need to wish for something too, both of you.
Ho 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 ho! Kanon laughed as she imagined a fine lady would, one hand beneath her chin. Oh, it's... okay, like Ojo-sama laugh?
Who do you take me for? I already made the wish. In fact, I made a whole bunch of them. Can you do that? I don't see why not. There is a whole load of shooting stars up there, and they all have my name on them.
It sounds like you, alright, Kanon.
Masaomi smiled dryly. He wouldn't have been at all surprised if Kanon had requested a dozen things from the starry sky. Children could be awfully impetuous, but Masaomi's desires were rather more humble than that. He looked up at the night sky, his eyes filled with stars. Softly he smiled, his lips curved upwards. And as Rinka gasped and Kanon whooped, he made a wish. One which he didn't utter loud, for fear it might not come true. What Masaomi wished for, as the shooting stars caressed across the sky, was nothing groundbreaking. He didn't wish for world peace. Well, Masaomi was an optimist, he didn't believe that this was achievable. Yeah, I mean, it's not. Sadly, it's not. Definitely not. And neither did he want personal wealth. He had a home of his own, and that was enough to content him. Man, I wish I had like a house that I could really call my own. Like, literally, you know, owning it. That would be nice. He didn't want anything for himself. He had lived longer than he had ever thought he would, and he had already accumulated everything he desired. I mean house, like, as in what he has basically, not like an apartment, like actual house, garden and so on. Anyway, what he wanted instead was something simple. He just wanted Rinka to be happy. Let's go. Okie dokie. 2 years later, we'll find out what's happened 2 years later in the next episode. That's it for today, and we'll see how the two of them live together after some time. Or, oh, maybe we'll also find out if Canon decided to return to her house in the end, to her family, and so on and so on and so on. We'll see. Anywho, hope you all enjoyed. Consider liking, subscribing, and so on if you have not done that yet, of course. But most importantly, have a wonderful day. Bye bye.